Will the world ever come to an end? The question gnawing at the edges of human consciousness for centuries, probably even millennia. One of the oldest, most read books in human history, the Bible, gives a chilling prophecy about the end times. In the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 6 to 7, it is written, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom." It's a rather ominous warning, is it not? If we look around today into the world, it's hard not to draw parallels. The global political landscape is riddled with escalating tensions. Superpowers are at each other's throats, fighting for dominance. Civil wars rip nations asunder from within, while the dark shadow of nuclear conflict hangs ominously over our collective conscience. Take a moment to consider the steady thrum of conflict that fills our news cycles. It's a cacophony of discord, a symphony of strife. From the cold relationship between East and West, to the internal wars racking the conscience of many nations, to nuclear war hanging like a guillotine over the world, there seems to be no shortage of wars and rumors of wars. And then, of course, there's that ever-present paranoia marking the hallmark of these times of instability. It's a heady cocktail that has many people wondering if we're teetering on the edge of a precipice, staring down at the abyss of a catastrophic war. Now, we're not saying that the end is nigh, but it is hard not to see in our modern world the echoes of Matthew's prophecy. Or if you happen to believe some of the more sensationalist religious thinkers out there, we are already living in the end times. In which case these wars and rumors of wars have merely provided the opening act for a cataclysm to follow. As we view the world around us, this biblical warning of rising global conflict appears strangely relevant. It's a thought that gives one pause, a sobering reminder of the turbulent times we live in. In the future, one can only hope that the right choice for humanity will be in the direction of peace and not war, understanding and not conflict. For now, as we stand in our befuddlement, we watch and wait. Next, let's look at the rise of false prophets. This is scary, for this prophecy speaks about the rise of spiritual leaders who claim to have some divine authority and ultimately lead the people to destruction because of their teachings. These teachings are not based on righteous truths, but lies and manipulation. Think of the last couple of years, technically the rise of cult leaders and self-proclaimed messiahs. A message from God regarding visions of the future, and then garnering a following with the promise of their salvation or destruction. They go on to claim that they are the second coming of Christ. Then it's not only shocking but appalling at the same time. But probably what's even more shocking is the readiness of people to believe such prophets. This has been fundamentally due to the rise in misinformation in the age of digital media. The internet, while serving to be remarkable for spreading information, can also be a propagator of lies. With the push of a button, and a false prophet enters the lives of the people and rises with more following and more people in a state of confusion. They are preying on the fearful and apprehensive nature that has gripped our globe today. This we have not heard of, but maybe the scale and the speed with which it is happening right now is something that we are unable to measure as of now. With the help of a globalized platform that the digital age has given them, these false prophets will increase in wisdom, and their escalation to enlighten the people with their false teachings and information gives them the advantage. It later provides a moment of chaos and confusion. Whatever teaching they have done, it will be easy to realize that in most cases, their teachings are usually altered, and with a fear factor in those teachings to attract more followers, it becomes easy for all that to be done. This is a direct evidence of the biblical prophecy, which warned of a rise of false prophets in the last days who would deceive several people. It's basically like a reminder that rightly says we should be careful, watchful, and not give too much attention to false prophets who depend on the scripture and hallowed powers. When this world is drowned in a sea of confusion and chaos, the rise of false prophets seems all too real. We now turn to ominous warnings of unprecedented natural disasters. Right in the pages of the Bible, Luke 21:11 makes our blood run cold with its foresight of great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences. It speaks of a world forsaken by God, hanging on the edge of despair and devastation so similar to our own. We've seen a frightening rise in terms of both the frequency and intensity of these disasters within just the last few years. Forest fires raze whole areas of land, burning with an intensity never before seen. Hurricanes tear their way across cities, leaving in their wake trails of destruction. Earthquakes shake the very foundations of our world, and floods submerge whole communities, displacing thousands of people from their homes. It is as if our planet is crying out in distress, rebelling against the very beings that inhabit it. So what's the cause for this surge of natural disasters? According to many scientists, the main cause is climate change. Our relentless exploitation of the Earth's resources, coupled with our insatiable appetite for fossil fuels, has brought into play a shift in the planet's climate. This shift has produced more extreme weather patterns and enhanced seismic activity, culminating in catastrophic events we see today. It is not just Earth that suffers, however. So, as Luke's prophecy mentioned, famines and pestilences are occurring alongside the shaking of Earth, and here too, we are sadly seeing our share. Food shortages are becoming common in different parts of the world due to extreme weather events and political instability. Not to mention the global pandemic that claimed millions of lives, crippled economies, and changed our way of life in ways we could never envision. With these catastrophic events on the rise, one can hardly help but wonder, are we seeing these prophecies happen right before our eyes? Are we at the threshold of the end times as foretold in the scriptures? Or can we change course and in doing so, change our destiny? Only time will tell. But as of now, the signs are there to be viewed and read, impossible to be ignored. And with these catastrophic events on a continuous rise, one can only help but wonder if we are living through the unraveling of the biblical prophecies. Now, let's delve into something a bit more recent and disturbing, the Black Awakening. Hatched in the far reaches of religion and conspiracy theory, this idea depicts a frightening portrait of global upheaval on the very verge of maniacal chaos. The Black Awakening suggests a clandestine mass activation of sleeper agents, if you will, suddenly going off in some future moment. These people have, quite literally, been programmed, the theory suggests, awaiting the day that an event will trigger them. Then they strike, and all hell starts to break loose. The idea of a sleeper agent surely isn't new in this respect, just a staple of spy movies everywhere. No, this goes further than that, implying a more sinister and malevolent force at work. It is a force, if anything, which doesn't merely have the goal of toppling governments or economies. It would globally plunge everything into anarchy and lawlessness. Far from being some theory for its believers, the Black Awakening is viewed upon by them as prophecy, a dark vision of the future that's not only possible but inevitable. It's a disturbing notion, to be sure, the thought of society unraveling in sudden and widespread violence. How does this relate to biblical prophecies? Well, it speaks of a time when the world shall be in turmoil, when lawlessness will increase and love grows cold. As it is written in Matthew 24:12, because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. The Black Awakening, through such a vision of chaos and lawlessness, roots itself in this very biblical prophecy. With any theory or prophecy comes its share of doubters, and the Black Awakening is no exception. Many would say it's nothing but the result of fear-mongering, or at best, a misinterpretation of the Bible. Yet its believers are undeterred, pointing to the growing global turmoil as a clear indication of its impending fulfillment. Undeniably, the dark, intense vision of the falling apart society adds another layer to the discussion about the signs of the end times. As we delve deeper, we will discover another prophecy that has evoked much debate and consternation. The Mark of the Beast. From the prophecy of the last book of the New Testament, the Revelation of John, to be more specific, in chapter 13, verses 16 and 17, it foretells the forcing of a mark upon all people, without which will be prevented the buying and selling of anything. Yet this mark, known as the Mark of the Beast, has been the subject of great speculation and argument. Both its nature and its manifestation bring with them a lot of doubt. Some take it very literally, while others consider it a metaphorical symbol, representative of a far greater entity. In our modern times, with our world becoming increasingly technologically advanced, there are theories which are propagating the idea of an association of the mark to be mentioned in the prophecy with implantable microchips or other digital identification systems, let alone under current times, when the speed at which technology is expanding is not well grounded. It would be possible for such theories to come up with justifications. a world in which every individual would carry an implanted microchip, a chip that stores all personal information, whether health records or bank details. A world that would track your every move and account for every transaction you make. A world that, of course, in the prophecy, yes, people without the chip, people without the mark, would certainly not be allowed to buy or sell. On another level, think about the surfacing and the emerging of digital identification systems. While those systems were created to be secure and effective, their nature could quite easily be flipped to impose control and restraint, to be able to impose who gets access to what and when, to track and limit. In a new, broader sense, think about the surfacing and emerging of digital identification systems. Sure, these systems are created to be secure and efficient, but in their nature they can quite easily be flipped to control and impose who gets access to what and when, to be able to track and limit. As we become more interconnected and reliant on technology, these theories gain traction. They serve as a stark reminder of the potential risks and consequences of unchecked technological advancement and centralized control. In the more we become interconnected and in more controlled society, the idea of a mark that embarks or a mark that engulfs doesn't seem so far-fetched. So, putting it all together, let's recount some of the prophecies that we have gathered. We have covered the disturbing headlines of increasing world conflict, the growing emergence of lying religious leaders, and an uptick in natural catastrophes, each uncannily similar to ancient prophecy. Then we have touched on the chilling concept of the Black Awakening, in which a controlled societal breakdown and wide-scale violence is planned. Lastly, the mark of the beast connected with our growing dependency on technology and surveillance. These signs, coincidence or prophecy, and their reflection upon the frail world in which we live, should bring about questions from within, spur on need for answers, and should keep us vigilant in uncertainty. Whether in fact these are signs of the end of times, they certainly bear watching. At least we can be watchful as our world unfolds, and perhaps be reminded to look to these prophecies for what they might say about our future. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your knowledge and wisdom in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious.